Bill Gates
social policy or whatever.
is a famous scientist, right?
Well, he's a famous computer guy. I don't know.
Computer scientist.
He's not a scientist.
He's a computer guy. In a
well,
monopolist.
So he's a famous medical doctor?
I don't think
you would think
so.
so.
A virologist?
No, not in my.
He works in medical in some way?
No, he talks about it a lot. I think he works in medical in the sense of genetically engineering mosquitoes to give you herpes or something. That's slander. He doesn't really do that. He does it to give you AIDS. Slander. I'm just kidding.
No, it's what he's literally doing is genetically engineering him and his foundation, I believe. Genetically engineer mosquitoes that are like sterile so they can't reproduce or something.
So that to eradicate malaria, that was one of the projects. He's actually talked, I don't know how far the research is, he's actually talked about modifying mosquitoes to get them to deliver vaccines as well.
Huh.
That's
terrifying.
What?
Which is scary.
I know.
Where
I think he said that, but he actually bought a bunch of stock in the mosquito spray companies, so he knows everyone's going to load up on that stuff.
Yeah. What's the difference between shareholder and
I'm just want to point out that I'm well past the point of hearing something that sounds insane and immediately saying it's insane, because when we had Alex Jones on and he told us we were eating cloned beef and I was like, no, we're not, and then I googled it and it's just true. And then Luke Rudkowski was like, Bill Gates funded microchips to for microchip birth control for women, and I was like, Luke, come on. And then I googled it and it's just like,
there it is.
Reuters reports it. So we have science.org, NewsGuard certified, 100 out of 100 researchers turn mosquitoes into flying vaccinators.
As I was saying. So anyway,
they do say it's unlikely to take off, but your point was that it was being funded.
It's being floated and funded, yeah. So anyway,
creepy.
Stakeholder capitalism is that we replace shareholder decision making with stakeholder decision making. So these are technocrats, experts. The experts will tell us what the right environmental, social, and corporate governance policy, ESG policy, will be to run a company successfully in a sustainable and inclusive way. That's the language they use.
And a stakeholder, for instance.
Stakeholder is somebody who represents people who they claim hold a stake in what comes out. So if an oil company, for instance, creates pollution, either directly or indirectly by selling its product, there are climate experts who are going to be representative stakeholders that are going to dictate what that oil company can do and can't do.
So the victims of corporate waste are the stakeholders in this situation?
No. Experts are experts who are appointed by other experts in a closed network become the stakeholders.
Why don't we do this?
Why don't we do this?
Let's make the...
They've got a good track record.
Fridamistani Economic Forum.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Will be held at my new ranch, Fridamistan. And I'll be the Klaus Schwab. And you can be the Chrystia Freeland, is that her name?
Yes, yeah. I can be the Canadian.
The Canadian.
Like, number 2.
Okay, thanks. I didn't want to...
I need your cat so I can...
Yeah, I don't want to derail. So it's taking it away from the shareholders, which are the people that have stock in the companies, being like, I want the company to do this, you said this, to a new unappointed electorate of experts controlling the economy from the top behind the scenes. Okay.
Correct. And I can explain how that works, but we're still talking about who Klaus Schwab is and what his ideas are. So I could tell you, because I brought him up to talk about his book. And so it turns out he's got a number of books. Fourth Industrial Revolution is a book he wrote in 2016, maybe 15. I'd have to double check the date, but thereabouts. And he talks about how we're transitioning into an entirely new world we're going through because of high-tech digital stuff. We're going into an entirely new world. There's synthetic biology. There's all these new high-tech things. Everything is so complex. He says there's so much velocity to the changes. Moore's law. He invokes a lot of sciencey sounding things. He says we're in a quantum state, which that's always really great. And I don't think he's talking just about quantum computers. He's like, it's quantum business or something like. And so it's like Deepak Chopra at that point, who is also works with the World Economic Forum.
Really?
Yes. And so anyway, the point I wanted to raise was that in his book that he wrote in 2020, in June or July of 2020, called COVID-19, let me say this very clearly because it's a conspiracy theory. Klaus Schwab, who directs this gigantic future-facing World Economic Forum that has sought since 1971 to remake the world economy and all of its tools, and has brought together the biggest world leaders in governance, corporations, and institutions to help do so in a yearly meeting, plus having thousands of employees, or at least hundreds of employees worldwide. He wrote a book called, let me not stutter, COVID-19, The Great Reset. That's the title of the book.
When did that book come out?
In June or July of 2020. Seems quick, doesn't it?
Perhaps.
Like 4 months into the pandemic, which was a very narrow window of opportunity to remake our global economy. as he described
You read the book?
I did read that book. I live tweeted about half of it because I read that part in the back of a car.
How much of it directly talks specifically about COVID-19?
Almost all of it.
Wow.
Virtually all of it, and how it can be used as a representative problem, that the scale of problems that we face.
I'll be honest, I don't think he wrote it. He probably hired someone. You know what I mean? He probably brought in a ghostwriter, and he probably spent a few days telling him, write this, write this, write this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Crank it out. You know what I mean?
I don't know any of the circumstances around that. That's possible. Everything he writes and says sounds to me virtually the same. He writes a lot of this kind of visionary pablum, and then all of a sudden he has this one weird paragraph in each of his books, because I've read 3 of them, and it's like, that's why we need global cooperation and a world government to usher us through these dangerous changes that we're having that are coming so fast. And in this long-winded explanation of who Klaus Schwab is and where we go, and I was building up to this Great Reset book. I have to remember what was the point of what he said in the Great. Oh yeah, we were talking about this supply chain kind of universe. So he's dead wrong in this book. He's explaining at that point that what's going to happen is people are going to be so scared of pandemics that as we come out of 2021 or so, what we're going to face is a massive demand crisis. People won't be willing to engage in goods and services anymore. And so now we're going to have this problem where employers aren't going to be able to employ people at all because there's no demand for the products, because nobody wants to go back into a virus-ridden society, and they're all scared and they're all hiding in their basements like Joe Biden did before the election. And as it turns out, we have the exact opposite problem. We're trying to pay kids $20-something bucks to flip burgers at McDonald's, and they won't do it. This is the UBI thing, right? So UBI is actually kind of in his whole program. This is how you're going to have a more inclusive economy. You give more people money, they're more included into the economy. They can participate in the economy. They have resources to participate. He actually talks about the inclusive economy in this regard. And so it actually creates exactly the opposite scenario that he's warning about. He's literally dead wrong. But this guy, for our technocratic experts, is the expert of the expert of the experts. That's really, he's the kingmaker among who gets to be these experts who are going to dictate everything. And as I was saying to Tim just a second ago, these guys have quite a track record of getting some pretty consequential shit wrong, as we've all seen over the last 3 years, as we say in the South.
Do you know, we read this quote once, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he said something to the effect of, if these leaders, these elites, believe that humans are so, incapable that they need special individuals who can lead them, what sets those people apart? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the exact quote was, something to that effect.
Well, I mean, the general idea that, if you can't trust people with freedom, how can you trust them with power?
If you can't trust people to do the right thing, why would that exclude the global elites?
Well, exactly. I mean? And here's the thing. I do believe that obviously at some point you need to defer to authority on certain things, but we're not selecting people to be in positions of authority based on their moral character at all. In fact, we're told we shouldn't even account for that. We should just try to look at their policies without questioning what kind of person they are. None of the people who are in charge of basically anything consequential have done anything that I think any of us would consider really morally impressive.
Well, I mean, that's what these guys, this is the same thing that we already have been circling around a couple of times, is they see themselves as morally superior to everybody.
Yeah.
They have, so Klaus's vision, if we're going to be as charitable to him as possible, is that the world has entered into a new phase because of high technology, computers, AI, automation and robots, synthetic biology, the capability apparently to unleash pandemics, which he ominously mentions in kind of weird ways throughout his books. Yeah, I mean, lots of these geoengineering even, he casually mentions in one of his books, The Great Narrative, the newest one, that maybe we'll just block out the sun to stop for a while, to stop
Could a small nuclear war prevent global warming? Remember that one?
Right.
That was from 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago. And, so they just casually flirt with these ideas. So he says, well, because of these changes that are coming to the world anyway, because of the rapid changes in technology, et cetera, what we need is people who are really informed about what these things mean to shepherd us through so they don't become calamities, like, say, COVID-19. They become something that we shepherd and use to the benefit of all. And then it's all, how do we get there? Global cooperation, global governance. Who's going to be in charge of it? Well, my merry band of experts. We have climate experts, we have technology experts, we have AI experts, we have all these like what's it named, Harari or whatever, Yuval Harari or whatever. We had a World Economic Forum video 2019, 18, something like this, and he's talking about we're going to hack humans. like they are a hackable system. We're going to figure out how to hack humans like we hack computers. They're basically just software.
But are they talking about the human mind, or are they talking about the human body?
I think both.
And the muscle, it's the neurons and the muscle and the stomach. And
we would have to look up his exact argument. It's been a little bit since I've seen it. But
the human mind is actually remarkably easy to hack in a rudimentary sense. The majority of like hacks, when they'll be like hackers broke into a computer, it's actually human manipulation.
That's right. That's exactly right. Which is why, for example, why are they making your kids at school fill out all these damn surveys all the time? Like literally survey after survey. What are they doing?
I didn't hear about this.
Oh God, this is under the brand of social and emotional learning. They're constantly trying to learn more about the children so they can do the social emotional learning interventions or whatever it is, which turned out to be Maoism, by the way. But they're also making them fill out these surveys. And so they're constantly like, how much money do your parents make? What are your views about this? How do you feel about the boobs that you're growing when you're a 12-year-old girl? Like, that's real. I've seen that. It's North Carolina. That's real. How do you feel about the changes to your body? You're growing pubic hair. How do you feel about that?
Jeez,
do people look at you? Yeah. And so they're filling out these things. And the goal is to create unique profiles for every single individual in society, very much like what we heard about, whether real or not, from Cambridge Analytica, where they were using personality profiles and then injecting that into people's social media to influence their voting habits. Influence voting habits, influence political behavior, influence speech, influence thought, so that the thought never enters the mind of the reactionary.
You know, there's
influence buying habits. Did I say that one already?
There are a lot of ties between Cambridge and the World Economic Forum.
Of course there are. Yeah. And so this is the idea, is that you're actually going to, that's level one. Level two is if these fools get neural implants where we're literally hooking our brains to the internet, then you could directly hack.
You ever watch Stargate SG-1?
I don't watch anything.
You should.
I should.
In Stargate SG-1, are you familiar with the concept of the show?
No.
So have you seen the movie Stargate? Okay, so military base.
I played that thing with the Protoss.
StarCraft.
StarCraft.
Check it out. They discover a big ring, and the ring you can dial in codes to other Stargates around the galaxy or whatever. Yeah. Technically, it goes beyond the galaxy and there's other galaxies, but in one episode, they're exploring. So there's SG-1 Stargate. You know.
Okay,
SG-1
got you.
They find a planet that is. They open the portal and they send a robot through. It's like a rover, and it's a destroyed world. And so they're like, this is weird. But then they keep going, and all of a sudden they go through some kind of like force field, and everything's normal and like nice. They go inside this reality. I'm sorry, they go inside the portal, wearing special suits. They're walking around this like destroyed planet.
Suit.
No, they're in like hazmat suits.
Oh, got you.
Because you can't breathe. The air is toxic.
Right.
But then they walk through a force field, and the town is normal, and they're like, there really does exist a town here with regular people. They begin talking to people and ask them about their way of life, and they say, there's just about 1,000 of us who live here. Our planet was destroyed, and so, we've managed to create this force field, which is geothermal powered, and it sustains our life. And they're connected to this kind of network that runs and programs everything for them so they can just live their lives. One day, one of the people they were liaising with is just gone. And they're like, where is so-and-so? And they're like, who? And they're like, the woman that we were talking to, negotiating. And they're like, we don't know who you're talking about. And they're like, this little girl, your mother. And she's like, I don't have a mother. And they're like, what? And then they one day see like one of the people just walk out into the dead zone and just like die. As it turns out, the machine could not maintain the force field and was slowly crunching. So what it did was, to maintain order, it was erasing people's memories of their loved ones to maintain order. Because as the force field shrank, and the sustainability of the bubble diminished, there were too many people. So they had to keep culling humans and reducing the number to maintain life in an orderly fashion.
How Malthusian.
When people plugged themselves into the machine overwrote their memories to preserve the system.
How Malthusian. And
good show.
And you see, Tim, while you were watching Stargate, I was studying the blade.
Oh my God.
That is a Maul sword prop for those that are curious. It's like, I don't know what it is. I bought it with my Legend of Zelda sword.
It's junk.
You are proficient in the blade, are you not, James?
I mean, I can use one. It's okay.
You are trained in the martial art?
In the martial arts.
Do we want to keep...
We were talking about brain implants.
Yeah. I'm sure if we want to stay on brain implants, Marshall, because I don't want to.
No, we should not.
Brain implants.
No, we should talk about things like brain implants and so on. Because
why don't we talk about robots?
Yeah, I want to add a point here because it'll be a good segue to the
because
question of robots.
That's programmable. Like that's how you program little simp boys.
Bingo. No.
Bingo.
So we're sort of talking about neural implants and microchips a person could potentially put in your brain in order to hack you. I actually think it's a lot simpler than that.
It's much simpler.
All you have to know how to do is manipulate people's emotions, and it
with
turns
digital
out
boobs.
It's incredibly easy to manipulate people's emotions, which is why in the past our culture took very seriously the project of bringing up children who could make decisions on the basis of what would be best for themselves and those around them rather than their raw emotional reaction to something. Because if you can manipulate a person's emotions, but they're a strong and virtuous person, they're going to think through the way they feel about whatever situation or idea they've been presented with, and they're going to react based on the logical understanding of that instead of going, well, I feel like I want to do this and so I'm going to. And I'm not just talking about emotions like anger or sorrow. I'm talking about things like lust or even pleasure. If you can get people to abandon reason whenever it will feel good to do so, they are going to become unbelievably easy for you to control.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.